Our next story ranges from McAllen to Oroville, California, where that state ranks #1 in the nation for missing persons. Two counties in Northern California have an unusually high number of missing persons. One county was featured in the Netflix documentary series Murder Mountain. The story involves the booming marijuana business. That area is where McAllen resident Neal Forrest King went missing in the mountains.
And he says, and I'm going to be home next year, because that was in November. And I just had this really bad feeling, you know. And I told him I wanted him to come home. So, you know, he said he would. He was wrapping things up, and he already talked about this guy named Cheatham was going to buy one of his properties, and he had these others too. So I started feeling like, okay, things are going to change, and he's going to be home.
But Neal King never made it back home to McAllen. He vanished on a cold March morning in 2013 in California, where he said he was on his way to a business meeting with Donald Cheatham Jr. Family and friends knew Neal was not the type at all to leave everyone behind.
Whatever, he was very punctual, and so he wasn't the type of kid that would just disappear.
There were many reasons Neal's family and friends knew Neal would not just disappear. He had very close relationships with his family, especially with his cousins.
We spent a lot of time together. They would come down for Easter egg hunts down here, and here in Brownsville at my mom's house, and he hung around with his cousins a lot. And as he got older, he was very close to them as well.
But it was always really fun to just listen to, you know, how life is in McAllen, and, you know, his friends and what they would do. It always just seemed, you know, I mean, he always knew how to make it, you know, really fun.
Neal's best friend since grade school shared a story of Neal's compassion and how he always stood up for those he loved.
I had a teacher who, I guess, kind of made like a comment like towards me in class that, I don't know, I just started crying. I've always been kind of a sensitive person. And, you know, he was very, like, taken aback by that. And he actually stayed after class and kind of, like, you know, told her off in a way. Like, he said that, you know, he told her that wasn't a nice thing to do, but in a more forceful way.
Neal is described as being very adventurous, ready to take on new projects. One day, he decided to move to Butte County, California, and venture into a new and fast-growing business, the legal marijuana industry.
Well, he was in Austin at Austin Community College for a couple of years, and he always struggled with his attention deficit in school, and the structured environment at school was always hard for him. And so I think he decided he would strike out for California, and you know, they were legally growing pot out there, and he decided he wanted to go out and do that. And you know, he was 21, so I could just hope that he would come back soon.
4 days before Neal disappeared, he called his mother on her birthday. The next call she received was a week later from Neal's live-in girlfriend. Neal had been missing for 3 days, and she had not reported him missing.
And I said, well, call the police. I said, call them right now. And she said, well, you know, I don't have a car. And I said, I said, what do you mean? I said, you don't need a car. I said, get your phone and call the police right now. I'm going to call you back in 15 minutes. And I called her back in 15 minutes, and she still hadn't called the police. And I just got so upset. I was just kind of yelling at her.
Gayle immediately called Neal's older brother.
I said, you need to drive to the Austin airport and take a flight out right now for Sacramento. So he did.
A mother's search for her missing son begins, and so does the investigation into Neal King's disappearance. Gayle was immediately in touch with the Butte County Sheriff's Office and the McAllen Police Department.
I did interview for a good 2 hours with Detective Smiley Cruz, and he was amazing. I think at that time he was like 30 years on the force, and I had you know, my son's girlfriend come and he talked to both of us and for a good while. And then I know he communicated also with the Butte County Sheriff's Department, and you know, through him I had to, you know, they asked for my DNA to keep on file up there, and that was traumatic.
The search for Neal in the rugged mountains of Northern California was on.
You know, my friends in McAllen were amazing because they started a GoFundMe to help me fund the searches, and then I had friends I hadn't seen in a long time that actually, you know, had all these posters and banners made, and then I had billboards put up. Organized the first search. I went in May for a week up there, and I organized the first search, and that search was without the dogs, and that had volunteers from the community, and some friends of my brother's came.
Gayle also launched a Facebook page and received tips and support from thousands of followers in the U.S. and around the world. The Missing Neal King page remains open.
You get support from all the people around you in your town, in your friends that you grew up with. I mean, everybody reaches out to you, and I mean, that's such an important thing, that we're not alone. So if anyone is faced with something like some huge thing, difficulty like this, is, you know, you're not alone. You know, you reach out and there will be their hands to help you.
Still, there was no sign of Neal. However, the Butte County Sheriff's Office now had a person of interest. It was Donald Cheatham Jr., the man authorities believe was the last person to see Neal alive.
I think my son went with Don Cheatham, this is my opinion, and went back to that property on Olive Grove that he was going to sell to Cheatham. I think that's what I think that's where my son went, and disappeared from there.
As the investigation continues, the Butte County Sheriff's Office authorities believe this missing case is more sinister